I hope you learned the proper use of hummus, which is to actually eat it rather than shove it up
somebody's ass. One little half exception may be if it's a particularly bad guy.
Yeah, that's gotta be cruel and unusual punishment. And especially if it's that spicy hummus. Oh, that would probably burn, dude. Oh my goodness. At that point, it's probably a war crime. This is some Diddy shit, and Diddy only got 9 years. It is the government doing it though, so even if it's illegal, it's like, what are you gonna do? So pretty much this John Kiriakou guy, he's just been going around, and he's been telling these stories about his time in the CIA. And they're just so out of pocket. Take this one, for example.
You know, I was standing in the day room one day, and these two guys started duking it out, which happened every few months. What are they duking it out over? Whether to watch Love and Hip Hop Atlanta or 101st and Park. I'm totally serious. They're duking it out, like blood flying, and I'm just sitting there. They're like literally 3 feet away from me. I'm doing my email.
You know, this does remind me of the one Spider-Man clip with Stan Lee. That one where he's in the library and they're fighting right behind him. This is literally John Kiriakou.
Well, on the camera, on the security cameras, they can see in what was called the SIS, the Special Investigations whatever service, or these two morons who just did investigations down there. So they see that I'm standing there. Well, and the thing is in prison, if there's a fight, everybody scatters. You run back to your cell. Why? Because you do not want to be implicated in a fight. You'll go straight to solitary and you'll probably be there for 6 months. And then if you're lucky, they'll only transfer you to another prison. They're not going to punish you further. But I'm like,
fuck you.
Well, I'm not doing anything. I'm finishing my email. So as soon as the fight ends, I hear,
Kiriakou, Lieutenant's office, immediately.
I was like, you dopes. So I walk down to the lieutenant's office and I go, what? Why don't you tell us about the fight? I go,
what fight?
Admit nothing, deny everything, make counter accusations. I go, what fight?
Oh, you're gonna be a wise guy.
I go, I don't know what you're talking about. What fight?
The fight that was 3 feet away from you in the day room?
I said,
there was a fight?
Very funny. We saw you on the camera, just standing there. I go, I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't think there was a fight. Actually, I think I would have noticed if there was a fight.
Oh, there was a fight. I go, yeah?
I think maybe you were fighting. How do you like that?
Why don't you tell me about the fight, since you seem to know
so fucking much about it.
And they were like,
get the fuck out of my office.
Top tier rage bait, by the way. The gaslighting is honestly incredible. And John just has the most fun doing his job. He's literally John Wick 007. If anything, he's better. He actually does this stuff in real life. No offense to Keanu, I like the John Wick movies. But we got the real John Wick right here. John Kiriakou. I would watch a John Kiriakou movie. I'd pay to see it. Like, I never thought that the spy movie shit was accurate. I mean, no one did. But according to John here, the average day working for the CIA is just a blast. It's like a fucking Call of Duty campaign. And he is actually ex-CIA. That's a fact. His credentials check out too. Verifying his stories isn't as easy though, but I think that there's a hint of truth to them. I remember seeing one where he brought up some real people and real events.
Do you ever fear for your life? Not now, but over the course of my career I did several times, and I'll give you one example. There were 2
active assassination attempts against me.
In one I just got lucky. And unfortunately, my
next-door neighbor was killed instead.
He was the British Defense Attaché in Athens, Brigadier General Stephen Saunders.
This was real, by the way.
I think about it every single day. In another, an enemy country sent one of its officers and a double agent to
kill me.
But we had advance warning that it was going to happen, and we were able to, well, we were able to
neutralize the threat,
as they say in the movies.
As they say in the movies, his life is a movie, dude. Even with real examples, it still doesn't quite prove his stories. He could very well just be inserting these examples into his stories. So just take it all with a grain of salt, you know? Because at the very least, he's an excellent storyteller. And also the videos are just funny.
I have consistently told the truth. There's just no better policy than to tell the truth. People will recognize that you're telling the truth, and they'll respect you for it.
He did actually go to prison for being a whistleblower, by the way, so you do gotta at least respect him a little bit for that. He honestly seems kind of like a chill dude. I don't know, I feel like if you were this dude's coworker and you were on his good side, you'd absolutely have the time of your life with him. Just, don't get on his bad side, or you might get the hummus treatment. Whether you love him or hate him, this dude's just out here having the time of his life. I think I'm actually gonna download some of these podcasts, because I'm trying to listen all the way through. One of the more notable ones is the janitor story.
Have you ever killed anybody? No, thank God. My children asked me that. And I told them very proudly that I have never taken any action that resulted in the death of another human being.
There's one kind of half exception.
And I think about this all the time. In 1993, I guess it was, I was sitting in the morning meeting. I told you earlier that every unit meets every day at 9 o'clock, and you just talk about what happened in the country that you cover overnight. I was in the morning meeting, and the secretary came in, and she said, John, General Powell is on the phone for you. Call him Powell. I said, General Powell? How does he know who I am? And she
said, I don't know, but he asked for you by name.
My boss is like, well, go answer the phone. So I went to my desk and I said, good morning, General Powell. This is John Kiriakou. And he says,
John, if the Iraqis were going to kill the president, who would actually be in charge of that operation?
And I said, well, if you're talking about the attempt to kill President Bush, George H.W. Bush, he had been visiting Kuwait. I said, Kuwait operations are run from the Iraqi intelligence service's Basra station. But Basra station is headed by Sabr Abdulaziz Adori, the director of the Iraqi intelligence service.
He says, where does he sit?
I said, Baghdad.
Where exactly in Baghdad?
I said, if you hold on a second, I'll look up the address. So I looked it up. I gave him the address. He said,
thank you. And he hangs up the phone.
I go back in the meeting. They were like, what do you want? I said, he wanted to know about Sabr Adori and the attempt to kill President Bush. I'm like, okay.
8 hours later, we fired 47 cruise missiles into Iraqi intelligence service headquarters.
But by then it was the middle of the night in Baghdad.
And we killed the janitor.
That poor janitor, dude. What a way to go out, man. Like, yeah, John Kiriakou indirectly ended him, but it was the half exception. So you really can't fully blame John here. Time zones shouldn't be that hard to understand. And just to clarify, I don't think anyone should be getting bombed, but at least it was only one guy versus what could have been much more people. I did a bit of research and I couldn't find anything that really confirms the janitor story, so it's possible that it just didn't happen at all. But if anyone does find evidence of it, just let me know. The one thing that is, I suppose, a little bit problematic is that these stories are actually believable. Like, this is totally something I could see the US government doing. And I'm not one for crazy conspiracy theories. Like, flat earthers, anti-vaxxers, those raw milk folks, I do not agree with them. But I do have one personal conspiracy theory. I wouldn't even call it a conspiracy, really. My theory is that the US government is corrupt. I know, real shocker. Corrupt politicians? Whoever thought of that? And aside from all the political stuff, John Kiriakou is just super out of pocket. See, there was one time where he tried to buy Abraham Lincoln's final turd.
They had this thing called
the Sideshow Museum.
And it was a museum of circus freak shows from the 1800s. Like stuff that had been in these circus sideshows. They had the shadow box hanging on the wall. And there's a
dried out turd in it.
And it says it's
Abraham Lincoln's final turd.
Come on. So it says on the card, it said when he arrived at Ford's Theater, he had to drop a deuce. And so before he got seated, he went to the men's room.
And he dropped a deuce in the chamber pot.
And then he went back to watch the play.
And he got shot.
Somebody had the presence of mind.
To fish it out.
And they say presence of mind.
Or the sickness.
Well,
there are a lot of Lincoln collectors out there. It's very competitive.
I see an article in the Washington Post about 6 months later saying it's going out of business and they're going to auction everything off. So I told my wife,
I'm buying that turd.
She's like,
Oh no, you're not.
I said,
Oh yes, I am. I'm buying that turd.
my wife and I actually had a strong disagreement about this. I go to the auction, and I
top out at $1,200.
it ends up going for $5,000. So the guy that ended up buying it sends it to some company for a DNA sample. And what they found was it had like microscopic bits of Necco wafer in it. But Necco wafers weren't invented until 1880.
It wasn't his shit. It wasn't his.
It was
some random guy's turd
that somebody paid.
$5,000 for.
I mean, John dodged a bullet here. Too bad Abraham Lincoln didn't dodge one. Shout out to the dude who actually did buy that, cause that's gotta suck. But you know what sucks more? The fact that some people watching this aren't subscribed. So go do it. Subscribe. Anyways, I got one more clip to show. This is my absolute favorite one because it's so creative.
When you're being released from prison, they give you a paper called a merry-go-round. It's a paper with your name and your prisoner ID number, and then it lists all the offices in the prison, and you have to go on your last day and get a signature for each one. It's meaningless. It's just to keep you occupied that last day so you're not out there settling scores. So one of my cellmates was being released, and I said, Jose, can I borrow your merry-go-round just for an hour? He's like, yeah. I go up to the library, I make a photocopy of it, I white out Jose's name and prisoner number, and then I type in Wallace's name and ID number. So I waited until 5 o'clock on Friday, and I put the merry-go-round on Wallace's bed. And Wallace comes in and he goes, I'm being released. I must have won my appeal. I said, oh my God, man, nobody ever wins their appeals. He goes, I have to call my lawyer. Well, even fancy New York lawyers leave by 5 o'clock on a Friday, so there's no answer. I said, Wallace, let us throw you a party, man. When are you gonna be released? He said, Monday morning. I said, okay, we're gonna have a big party, big dinner, all the Italians. On Saturday, he gave away all his possessions. We had a blowout party for him on Sunday. And then on Monday morning, we walked him down to receiving and discharge. Wallace goes in, hands him the merry-go-round, and the guy says, who the f*** are you? He goes, Wallace, what are you doing here? He says, I'm going home. The guy looks at the merry-go-round. He says, turn around. You're under arrest. For what? Attempted escape. They cuff him. They take him to solitary. He was in solitary about 6 weeks, and then they sent him to a prison in Youngstown, Ohio, where he served out the remainder of his sentence.
Yeah, poor Wallace, dude. I don't think he deserved that, but it's still funny as fuck. Like, for John Kiriakou, that's some mastermind shit. Like, he really thought this out. And 6 weeks solitary? That's brutal. Solitary confinement is so bad for your mental health. But if I do remember correctly from the story, Wallace did start the beef. So, was John justified? Probably not, but I do understand it. Now, just for fun, I'm gonna play all the clips at once, so let's just see how that sounds.
I hope you learned the proper use of hummus, which is to actually eat it rather than to shove it up your throat. One
There you go. Just a little treat for those of you who stayed this long. But I hope you enjoyed it, so I'm gonna dip now.